The kitchen knife trembles in Lucy Johnson's weathered hands as she stares at the small glass vial hidden behind the industrial spice rack. The clear liquid inside catches the fluorescent light, and her heart pounds as she realizes what she's discovered. "He's been poisoning you," she will soon shout, but right now, in this moment of terrifying clarity, Lucy knows her life is about to change forever. But let me take you back to where this nightmare began, just 3 hours earlier in the bustling kitchen of the prestigious Grandview Hotel. Steam rises from massive pots as Lucy methodically wipes down the marble countertops, her brown eyes constantly observing the chaos around her. At 52, she's worked in this kitchen for 8 years, invisible to most but seeing everything. The dinner rush is approaching, and Chef Richard Allen barks orders with his usual arrogance, his pale face flushed from the heat and stress. "Make sure that special sauce is ready for table 12, Richard mutters to his sous chef, glancing nervously toward the dining room. "And remember, only I handle the final preparation." Lucy's cleaning rag pauses mid-swipe. In all her years here, she's never heard Richard speak with such secrecy about a dish. His hands shake slightly as he reaches for a small container from his jacket pocket, quickly concealing it when another staff member approaches. "Everything all right, chef?" the young prep cook asks. "Mind your own business and focus on the vegetables," Richard snaps, his voice unusually sharp. Little did Lucy know that this moment would set in motion events that would expose a web of deception threatening the lives of innocent people. As the evening progresses, Lucy finds herself drawn to the pantry for cleaning supplies. The narrow storage room feels different tonight, shadows seeming deeper in the corners. She reaches for the industrial bleach when something catches her eye, ingredients that don't belong. Hidden behind boxes of pasta, she discovers small packages labeled with chemical names she doesn't recognize. Her pulse quickens as she photographs them with her phone, the flash illuminating bottles that clearly aren't meant for cooking. "What are you doing back here?" Lucy spins around to find Richard standing in the doorway, his chef's coat stained with sauces, his expression dark and suspicious. "Just getting supplies, Chef Allen," she says, keeping her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. His eyes narrow as he steps closer. "These storage areas are off limits to cleaning staff. Stick to your assigned areas." But what happened next shocked everyone, including Lucy herself. She nods respectfully and leaves, but her mind races with questions. Why would a chef hide mysterious chemicals in the pantry? Why was he so secretive about that special dish? And why did his hands shake when he thought no one was watching? Her questions find a horrifying answer just 20 minutes later. Through the service window, Lucy watches as a well-dressed gentleman at table 12 takes his first bite of Richard's special preparation. Within moments, the man's face goes pale. He clutches his throat, struggling to breathe as his dinner companion screams for help. Paramedics rush in as the man collapses, his body convulsing violently on the pristine dining room floor. Lucy's blood runs cold as she realizes the connection. The secret ingredients, Richard's nervous behavior, the special dish, it's all connected. And if she's right about what she's seeing, this was no accident. This decision would change everything, because what Lucy discovers next will force her to risk her job, her safety, and possibly her life to expose the truth. As the ambulance sirens fade into the night and the restaurant falls into stunned silence, Lucy makes her way back to that forbidden pantry. Her heart hammers against her ribs as she searches more thoroughly, moving boxes and containers with trembling fingers. Behind the industrial-sized cans of tomato sauce, her worst fears are confirmed. A small glass vial sits innocuously on the shelf, nearly empty but still containing traces of clear liquid. The label has been partially torn off, but she can make out enough letters to send chills down her spine. This isn't any cooking ingredient she's ever seen in 30 years of kitchen work. But the real shock was still coming, because attached to the vial with a rubber band is a handwritten note in Richard's distinctive scrawl, "Tomorrow's event, double the dose." Lucy's hands shake as she realizes that tonight was just the beginning. Whatever Richard is planning, whatever drove him to poison that innocent man, tomorrow's special event will be his grand finale. And she might be the only person who can stop him. The peculiar vial Lucy discovered at Chef Richard's station haunts her thoughts as she makes her way through the mansion's servant quarters. The weight of what she witnessed, that guest collapsing, the chef's nervous energy, those strange ingredients, presses down on her chest like a stone. She knows she can't handle this alone. "Maria, I need to talk to you," Lucy whispers urgently as she finds her friend folding linens in the supply closet. Maria Gonzalez has worked alongside Lucy for 3 years, and if anyone would believe her suspicions, it would be Maria. Maria looks up, immediately sensing the tension in Lucy's voice. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Lucy glances around nervously before pulling Maria deeper into the closet. "It's Chef Richard. I think he's poisoning the guests." The words hang in the air between them. Maria's eyes widen, her hands stilling on the pristine white sheets. "Lucy, that's a serious accusation. Are you absolutely certain? I found this strange vial by his station, and I saw him acting so suspicious earlier. Then that guest got sick right after eating his special dish." Lucy's voice trembles with conviction. "We have to find out more. But what if they're walking into something far more dangerous than either of them realizes?" Maria sets down the linens, her expression growing serious. "If you're right about this, we could both lose our jobs, or worse. But if you're right and we do nothing..." She takes a deep breath. "What do you need me to do?" Relief floods through Lucy. Having Maria's support makes the impossible seem manageable. "We need to search the kitchen after everyone's gone. There has to be more evidence." That night, after the last dish has been washed and the kitchen staff has retired, Lucy and Maria slip through the shadows like ghosts. The mansion's kitchen, usually bustling with activity, feels eerie in the moonlight streaming through the tall windows. Every creak of the floorboards sounds amplified in the silence. "Check the pantry again," Lucy whispers, pointing toward the storage area. "I'll look through his station more carefully." Maria nods, her flashlight beam dancing across shelves of ingredients. Meanwhile, Lucy carefully examines Chef Richard's workspace, running her hands along surfaces, opening drawers with surgical precision. Her fingers find a loose panel beneath his cutting board. "Maria, come here," she hisses urgently. Behind the panel, they discover a small notebook filled with Chef Richard's distinctive handwriting. Maria holds the flashlight steady as Lucy flips through the pages, her heart racing with each revelation. "Look at this," Lucy breathes, her finger tracing a particular entry. It's a list of symptoms: nausea, dizziness, rapid heartbeat. And here. She turns the page, her blood running cold. "A guest list for tomorrow's board meeting." Maria leans closer, reading over Lucy's shoulder. "That's the quarterly executive dinner. All the company's top brass will be there." Her voice drops to a whisper. "Lucy, look at the date on this entry." The entry reads, "Final preparation, board dinner, room 12A. Quantity sufficient for full guest list. No survivors expected." The notebook trembles in Lucy's hands. This isn't just about making guests sick, this is about murder. Chef Richard is planning to kill every executive at tomorrow's dinner. "We have to call the police," Maria says, her voice shaking. "With what proof?" Lucy responds, though her mind is racing. "A notebook that we found by breaking into his station? They'll never believe 2 maids over the head chef of the most prestigious estate in the county." But as Lucy continues reading, she discovers something that makes her stomach drop to her feet. At the bottom of the final entry, there's a name circled in red ink: Jonathan Baker, the company's CEO. Next to it, Chef Richard has written, "Primary target, personal score to settle." The pieces suddenly click into place. This isn't random violence or workplace sabotage, this is personal revenge against the most powerful man in the company. "Maria," Lucy whispers, her voice barely audible, "we're not just dealing with a poisoning plot. We're looking at an assassination attempt, and it's happening in less than 12 hours. As they prepare to leave, Maria accidentally knocks over a small container near the sink. The metallic clatter echoes through the kitchen like a gunshot. Both women freeze, their hearts pounding as they hear footsteps approaching from the corridor. Someone's coming, and they have nowhere to hide with the evidence that could expose everything. Lucy's hands trembled as she clutched the guest list she discovered hidden beneath Chef Richard's cutting board. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she scanned the names, one leaping out at her like a neon sign: Jonathan Baker, CEO of Pinnacle Industries. Tomorrow's special event wasn't just any dinner party, it was a corporate gathering for the city's most powerful executives. The kitchen door creaked behind her, and Lucy spun around to find Chef Richard standing in the doorway, his usually pristine white coat stained with sauce and his eyes cold as winter steel. "Looking for something, Lucy?" His voice carried a dangerous edge she'd never heard before. Lucy tucked the list behind her back, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Just cleaning up, Chef. You know how thorough I am." Richard stepped closer, his massive frame blocking the only exit. "I know exactly how thorough you are. That's becoming a problem." "I don't know what you mean." Lucy's pulse quickened as she calculated her options. "Come on, Lucy. We both know you've been poking around where you don't belong." His lips curved into a humorless smile. "Finding things that aren't meant to be found." The confrontation Lucy had been dreading was finally here, and she realized she had two choices: back down and potentially let innocent people die, or stand her ground and face whatever consequences Richard had in mind. "I saw what you put in Mrs. Henderson's soup last week," Lucy said, lifting her chin defiantly. "I found those vials in your station. I know what you're doing." Richard's face darkened, and for a moment, Lucy saw something flicker across his features, not just anger, but desperation. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You're just a maid who's watched too many detective shows." "Then explain the poison, Richard. Explain why guests keep getting sick after eating your special dishes." The word poison hung in the air between them like a loaded gun. Richard's composure cracked, and suddenly he looked less like the confident chef she'd worked alongside for 2 years and more like a cornered animal. "You think you understand?" Richard's voice rose, echoing off the stainless steel surfaces. "You think you know what it's like to lose everything? To have someone destroy your life with a phone call?" Lucy's mind raced as she tried to make sense of his words. "What are you talking about?" "Jonathan Baker," Richard spat the name like it tasted bitter. 5 years ago, his company bought out the restaurant where I was head chef. Fired half the staff to cut costs. I lost everything: my job, my reputation, my savings when the lawsuit failed. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but Lucy felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the scope of Richard's plan. "So you took this job to get close to him. He destroyed my career without a second thought. Now it's time he paid for it. By poisoning innocent people?" Lucy's voice cracked with emotion. "Mrs. Henderson nearly died because she happened to order the wrong dish. How many others have you hurt trying to get to Baker?" Richard's jaw tightened. "Collateral damage. That's what Baker called it when he destroyed our lives." But wait, Lucy remembered something that made her blood run cold. "The guest list, there are dozens of people coming tomorrow. You're not just targeting Baker, are you?" Richard's silence was answer enough. "You're going to poison everyone at that dinner," Lucy whispered, the full horror of his plan sinking in. "All those people, their families. They're all part of the same corrupt system," Richard said coldly. "They all profit while people like us suffer." Lucy thought about her own struggles, working 2 jobs to support her sick mother, the constant fear of losing this position, the way she was often treated as invisible by the wealthy guests. She understood desperation, understood feeling powerless against forces bigger than yourself. But this wasn't the answer. "I can't let you do this, Richard." His expression hardened. "You don't have a choice. Who's going to believe a maid over an award-winning chef? You're nobody, Lucy. You always have been." The cruel words hit their mark, but they also ignited something fierce inside her. Lucy had spent her whole life being underestimated, being dismissed, being treated as less than. But she wouldn't let that stop her from doing what was right. "Maybe I'm nobody to you," she said, her voice growing stronger. But those people tomorrow, they're somebody to their families. They have children, parents, people who love them. Richard moved toward the door, clearly intending to leave her locked in the kitchen. By tomorrow night, it'll all be over. And you'll keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you. But as he reached for his keys, Lucy noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. She wasn't the only one who'd been investigating. There, tucked partially under a stack of invoices on Richard's desk, was a detailed seating chart for tomorrow's event. But this wasn't just any seating chart. Specific guests had been circled in red ink, and beside each name was a small notation that made Lucy's blood run cold. The plan was even more calculated than she'd imagined, and tomorrow's dinner party was going to be a massacre unless she could find a way to stop it. The morning of the grand corporate event arrived with electric tension crackling through the elegant hotel. Lucy's hands trembled as she approached the management office, Maria close behind her. They had to try one more time. "Sir, please, you have to listen to us," Lucy pleaded as hotel manager Thompson barely glanced up from his clipboard. "Chef Richard is planning to poison someone at today's event. We have evidence." Thompson's cold laugh cut through her desperation. "Lucy, this is ridiculous. Chef Allen is one of our most respected staff members. You're making wild accusations that could destroy careers, including your own." Maria stepped forward, her voice urgent. "But we found the notes, the ingredients." "Enough." Thompson slammed his hand on the desk. "I won't have my kitchen disrupted by paranoid fantasies. Get back to work, both of you, before I write you up for insubordination." As they walked away, Lucy's heart pounded with frustration. The guests would start arriving in 3 hours, and no one would believe them. She turned to Maria, determination blazing in her eyes. "If they won't listen, we have to stop him ourselves." 2 hours later, Lucy stood outside the kitchen loading dock, wearing a borrowed catering uniform she'd found in the laundry. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she adjusted the white cap, trying to blend in with the bustling preparation staff. The kitchen was a symphony of organized chaos. Servers rushed back and forth, pots clanged, and Chef Richard commanded his station like a conductor before his orchestra. Lucy kept her head down, grabbing serving trays to maintain her cover while keeping her eyes locked on Richard's every move. But wait, something wasn't right. As Richard worked, she noticed his hands shaking, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. This wasn't the composed chef she'd confronted before. His movements were erratic, desperate. "Behind you," a server called, nearly knocking Lucy over with a tray of appetizers. She stumbled, catching herself against the prep counter, and found herself with a perfect view of Richard's station. That's when she saw it. Richard glanced around nervously, then reached into his chef's coat. His fingers closed around a small glass vial, the same type she'd seen in the pantry. Lucy's blood turned to ice as she watched him uncork it, the clear liquid inside catching the harsh kitchen lights. She had to move now. Richard lifted the vial toward the main serving dish, an elaborate prime rib that was clearly meant for the head table. Lucy could see the guest list in her mind. CEO Jonathan Baker would be sitting right there, along with the other executives. "Stop!" Lucy shouted, abandoning all pretense as she lunged forward. Chaos erupted. Richard spun around, the vial still in his hand, his eyes wide with panic and rage. "You," he hissed. "Why couldn't you just mind your own business?" Kitchen staff froze as Lucy and Richard faced each other across the prep counter. The vial seemed to glow with menace between them. "Because innocent people could die," Lucy said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Whatever's driving you to do this, it's not worth murder." Richard's face contorted with desperation. "You don't understand, they ruined everything. My restaurant, my reputation, my life. Baker's company destroyed me, and now I'm just supposed to serve them dinner and smile?" "Richard, don't," Lucy reached toward him, but it was too late. The vial slipped from his trembling fingers, shattering against the floor. Whatever poison it contained spread across the tiles in a dangerous puddle. Before Lucy could react, strong hands grabbed her arms from behind. "Got her!" Security Chief Martinez's voice boomed as he wrestled her away from the scene. Caught her trying to sabotage the kitchen. No, you don't understand. Lucy struggled against his grip as Richard quickly composed himself, playing the role of innocent victim. He's the one poisoning people. But as Martinez dragged her toward the service exit, Lucy caught sight of Richard's face. His expression of calculated relief told her everything. He had backup plans, other ways to complete his deadly mission. The kitchen doors slammed shut behind them, and Lucy realized with growing horror that the event was starting in less than an hour, and she was now completely powerless to stop what was coming. The heavy oak door to CEO Jonathan Baker's office closes behind Lucy with an ominous thud. The mahogany-paneled room feels suffocating, portraits of past company leaders staring down at her like silent judges. Baker, a distinguished man in his 60s with steel-gray hair, gestures for her to sit across from his imposing desk. "Miss Johnson," he begins, his voice measured but not unkind, "security tells me you made quite serious accusations against our head chef today." His piercing blue eyes study her face. "These are career-ending allegations you're making." Lucy's hands tremble slightly, but her voice remains steady. "Mr. Baker, I know how this looks. A maid accusing the head chef of poisoning guests. But I have proof." She pulls out the crumpled notes she and Maria discovered, the vial she found, and photos Maria secretly took of the hidden ingredients. Baker examines each piece of evidence carefully, his expression growing more grave with each item. "These notes, they're definitely Richard's handwriting. I've seen enough board memos to recognize it." He looks up sharply. "But why would he do this? Richard's been with us for 12 years. Before Lucy can answer, commotion erupts in the hallway. Through the office's glass panels, they see Chef Richard Allen rushing past, still in his white coat, carrying a small duffel bag. His face is flushed with panic, sweat beading on his forehead. "Stop him!" Lucy jumps to her feet. "He's trying to escape." Baker immediately calls security while Lucy bolts from the office. Her years of navigating the hotel's service corridors give her an advantage. She takes the staff stairwell 2 steps at a time, emerging on the ground floor just as Richard pushes through the emergency exit leading to the parking garage. "Richard, stop," she calls out, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. He spins around, and for a moment, Lucy sees not the intimidating chef who terrorized the kitchen staff, but a desperate, broken man. His chef's hat is askew, his pristine white coat stained with sauce and sweat. "You don't understand," he pants, backing toward a silver sedan. "I never meant for anyone to get seriously hurt. It was just supposed to make Baker's VIP guests sick, embarrass the hotel." "But why?" Lucy steps closer, genuinely confused. "This place gave you everything, a career, respect, financial security." Richard's bitter laugh echoes through the garage. "Financial security? My daughter needed surgery last year. The insurance barely covered half. I maxed out credit cards, took loans I couldn't afford." His voice cracks. "Meridian Industries promised me $200,000 to sabotage tonight's event. Their CEO wanted Baker's hotel chain to fail so they could buy us out cheap." Lucy's heart pounds as she realizes the full scope of the conspiracy. "So you were willing to poison innocent people for money?" "Not poison," he shouts defensively. "Just enough to cause food poisoning symptoms. Make the hotel look incompetent." His shoulders slump. "But then I started increasing the doses, thinking it would be more effective. I didn't realize how dangerous." The sound of sirens grows louder. Police cars and security vehicles flood into the garage, their red and blue lights painting the concrete walls in alternating colors. Baker appears with Detective Martinez, a stern-faced woman in her 40s who immediately takes charge. "Richard Allen, you're under arrest," Detective Martinez announces, approaching with handcuffs ready. "We have a warrant based on the evidence provided by Ms. Johnson here." As Richard is handcuffed, he looks directly at Lucy. "I'm sorry," he whispers. "I never wanted it to go this far." 3 hours later, Lucy sits in the hotel's executive conference room, surrounded by police, hotel management, and a team of lawyers. The toxicology report lies open on the polished table, its findings stark and damning. The substance found in the kitchen samples contains concentrated salmonella cultures and trace amounts of ricin, Detective Martinez reads aloud. In the dosages we found, this could have caused severe illness, and potentially death in elderly guests or those with compromised immune systems. Baker runs his hands through his gray hair, visibly shaken. 37 guests attended tonight's event. If Lucy hadn't intervened. He can't finish the sentence. The irony, Detective Martinez continues, is that Meridian Industries had no idea their hired saboteur had escalated to potentially lethal methods. They thought they were paying for minor food poisoning incidents. When we arrested their CEO an hour ago, he was horrified to learn what Richard had actually done. Lucy sits quietly, still processing everything. Maria, who's been by her side throughout the ordeal, squeezes her hand supportively. Baker turns to Lucy, his expression filled with genuine remorse. "Ms. Johnson, I owe you an enormous apology. When security first brought you to me, I'll admit I was skeptical. The idea that our head chef was poisoning guests seemed impossible." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "Your courage and persistence saved lives tonight. Probably dozens of lives." "I was just doing what was right," Lucy says simply. "No," Baker shakes his head firmly. "You risked your job, your safety, and your reputation to protect people you'd never even met. That's not just doing what's right, that's heroism." As the meeting concludes and the last of the police leave, Baker asks Lucy to stay behind. The conference room feels different now, less intimidating, more hopeful. "I want to offer you a position in our corporate security division," he says. "Your attention to detail, your investigative instincts, and your moral courage are exactly what we need. The salary would triple what you're making now, with full benefits and educational support if you want to pursue criminal justice training." Lucy stares at him in disbelief. After years of invisible work, of being overlooked and undervalued, she's being offered a chance at a completely different future. "But what about the other staff who dismissed my concerns?" she asks. "The managers who wouldn't listen. They're being retrained on proper employee communication protocols," Baker replies seriously. "We're implementing new systems so that any staff member can report concerns directly to security or executive management, with complete protection from retaliation." 6 months later, Lucy Johnson walks through the same hotel corridor where this nightmare began, but now she wears a crisp business suit instead of a maid's uniform. Her badge reads Senior Security Analyst, and the respect in people's eyes when they see her is unmistakable. Richard Allen received 8 years in prison for attempted poisoning and conspiracy. Meridian Industries faced federal charges and ultimately went bankrupt from the legal costs and settlement payments. Baker's hotel chain not only survived but thrived, becoming known throughout the industry for its ethical practices and employee empowerment programs. Maria was promoted to head of housekeeping, and she and Lucy remain best friends. They often laugh about how a hidden vial in a kitchen pantry changed both their lives forever. Standing in Baker's office now as an equal rather than a subordinate, Lucy reflects on the lesson that emerged from those terrifying days. Sometimes the most important voices are the ones that seem quietest, and the biggest threats come from the places we least expect. But when ordinary people find extraordinary courage, they can change everything. The truth always surfaces eventually, she tells the new security trainees during orientation. Our job is to make sure it surfaces before anyone gets hurt. What would you do if you suspected something dangerous was happening at your workplace? Would you have the courage to speak up, even if no one believed you? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories of everyday heroes.